We have a quorum and it's the appointed time. I call the meeting to order. Let's welcome Director for Administration, Ms. Choi, and the Deputy Director, Mrs. Toh. Well, I think new broom sweeps clean, so we'll have some favorable outcome. This is in relation to the review of the operating expenses reimbursement for LegCo members. There are some loose ends to be tied up. I don't know whether members would agree with my putting it like this. Well, there are just two members from the DAB and there are no other members. I believe other members are elsewhere attending other meetings, but we will go ahead anyway. Last term, there were a number of proposals put forward, but the outcome wasn't too satisfactory. This term, there are a large number of new members, and they feel the pressure. Well, let's welcome the RSG and the Deputy SG and the Secretary Matthew. There is a survey done on members' view on expectations of the review. Let me ask Matthew to give us a brief presentation, and then we'll hear from the director. Matthew. As per the direction of the last subcommittee, we have done a survey on the views of 70 members. There are 9 proposals that are outstanding from the report of the last term. So we seek members' view on these 9 proposals to see if we should take it up with the administration. You'll find the 9 proposals in paragraph 3A to I. 64 members replied. For the first few proposals, A to D, they are mainly about central office, district office, the staffing arrangements. Say A. At least it's hoped that there will be in the central office 1 personal assistant pitched at an EO1 level, plus 2 clerical officers, and in district offices 2 members with at least 1 being a degree holder. The majority of respondents support that. Over 50 members support these proposals. We've also received views that members would not want to see any limitations on a certain rank or level because they would like to have the flexibilities, in particular in relation to district offices, because they may need people with district experience to fill the post. And proposal E, there is a request to provide end-of-service gratuity. 63 members supported this view. 1 member said no comment. There were no objections. F. In relation to the adjustments of the office OER, they asked for 70-30 apportionment. 70% of the annual adjustments should be based on civil service pay adjustments, whereas the remaining 30% will be in accordance with the present practice, that is, the movement of the CPIC. G. They ask for a new and separate accountable allowance for research work. H is in relation to the setting up expenses reimbursement and information technology and communication equipment expenses reimbursement to be increased to $526,383 per term. In the last term, there were 2. We used this we use 2 offices as the standard, but members' view is that under the new term, normally each member will have 3 offices, so there needs to be an adjustment in the sum to help them. And there is also a proposal about an adjustment not term by term, but instead, after a survey is done and found that there is a need for an adjustment, so a majority of members support these 9 proposals. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. I believe that there are still matters that we have discussed with the director. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, some members mentioned about an item. That is, within one's term, a staff member may leave after working a long, after fulfilling a long length of service, and there will be severance pay. No, not severance pay. It was a close down of an office. I think that's already taken off. But we're talking about long service payment when someone leaves. And the only way a member can get amount of money for long service payment is when the office closes or the member leaves. But if the member is still there and the staff member leaves, then they will have to take the sum out of the monthly amount to pay towards the long service payment. We've sent a letter to them, and we're still awaiting an answer from them. Director, you've heard all the views, and since you're here, there must be something new that you can share with us. And after that, I'll ask members to make comments. Thank you. I wasn't here last time. Please don't use C.Y. Leung's words. There is continuity in the administration. Well, I note that the Secretariat has conducted a survey. The 9 proposals A to I are included in the views given to us in the last term. And let me give you a brief reply. According to established practice, generally speaking, after a survey or a review is done by a subcommittee, the outcome will take effect in the next term, and I believe that members will put forward new grounds and new data to support their argument. And the current term has been in place for over 10 months, and I believe there will be new arguments. And if we refer that to the subcommittee for interim review, we will need the leverage of these arguments. The clerk said in relation to the 9 proposals, it seems that the administration has not taken that into account. But I can tell you that we have pored over the entire report, and we have conducted a research. We've gone over every proposal, and as a result, last year we have come up with a number of decisions, a 10% increase of the remuneration, and also increase by 20% in relation to OOER, close to $2.1 million. And there is also brought forward arrangements for an amount for a member to use to retain manpower and to pay out end of service gratuity. And in relation to the SUER and the ITER, the independent committee agreed to combine these 2. But what we had on hand was that not too many members get over 50% on reimbursement, accountable reimbursement. So there is no need we don't see the need to increase it significantly by 93%. In other words, the independent commission has looked into it. And there are certain principles. Well, if with the new composition of the independent commission, we will see if they will abide by the previous principles, and they are: for assistants engaged by members, you propose to pitch their salary to link it with civil service pay, but the independent commission is of the view that that is not appropriate, because for civil service pay, it's quite unique, taking into account of different ranks and levels, and if you simply link the personal assistance with civil service, it is inappropriate, as deemed by the independent commission. Another principle of the commission is that members should be given the greatest flexibility. There should not be any intervention and decisions made on behalf of the members on how much should be paid to an assistant. So does it mean that if it is pitched at a certain level, you will have to give that salary level? I see from the survey of the Secretariat, some members disagree with replacing the flexibility with something else. Another principle is that the Commission is aware of the additional 5 super legislators. They strictly abide by this principle. A member, whether it's from FC or GC, they have the same constitutional status. The Independent Commission took into account a basket of factors, including the OOER. It's also aware of the fact that a number of members have to pay out of their pocket, and the increase in rental. They've also taken into account the various salary levels of people with different education levels, say for example university graduates and experienced managers. These were compiled by the Census and Statistics Department. The Commission is also aware of the fact that the workload of members has increased, and meetings are longer and longer, and they're dealing with more controversial issues. They've taken into account this basket of factors, and in the report of the Commission, a number of examples were cited, including the presumption given to us by the subcommittee, i.e., on average, a member will engage 7 members operating 3 offices, including the central office. They also noted the result of discussions with the subcommittee and legislators about the difference of experience of staff required by the central office and district offices. They've looked at a number of examples, took into account a basket of factors, and decided to increase the OOER by 20%, and annually in October make adjustments in accordance with the movement of the CPIC, and that will be automatic. And in relation to a separate allowance for research purpose, members are allowed to engage outside parties, including political parties, to do the research. In paragraph 4.4, the Commission has great reservations, and they don't support this proposal because there is potential conflict of interest.
And so, in the report, the independent commission addressed all these issues and concerns. And concerning the point raised by Mr. Wai-hing, it's still being considered within the administration. We need to consider factors like consistency with other policies. And if necessary, we may need to have discussions with other policy bureaus. At the time, it was decided that when the office was closed, then if the length of service was or exceeded 2 years, then there could be offsetting with the MPF, or the payment could be made with the OER. So we will, if necessary, bring this matter to the Independent Commission for its consideration, and we may also need to go back to Finance Committee. So is it that you've addressed all our concerns? Is it that the short answer is no? Now, at the OER was increased, and in the past 10 to 11 months, perhaps there was some new realization or experience for our reference. Now, I will bring the matter back to the Independent Commission, but I believe the Independent Commission remembers very well that these 10 issues have already been looked at by the Independent Commission, and so if I am to go back to the Independent Commission, I have to provide the Commission with new information. So let's see whether members have got new information or data, because less than a year has lapsed. So Mr. Lee Chuk Yan and then Mr. Wai-hing. Yes, Chairman, thank you. I think the administration needs to declare interest. In fact, it should state clearly that it doesn't want LegCo members to have a lot of resources to monitor the performance of the administration. I don't have this intention. Of course, that's not my personal interest. In fact, that's the government's interest. In fact, the government doesn't want LegCo members to have adequate resources to monitor the performance of the government. In fact, for members returned from GCs, in fact, we need to handle a lot of issues, and so the government is definitely happy if GC members do not have adequate resources to monitor the government, and also on territory-wide issues, major issues. If we have more resources to carry out research, then we'll be in a better position to argue with the administration. You're asking us whether we've got new data. I want to say that the Independent Commission's position is wrong. It said that the staff of LegCo members should not be linked to civil service pay. What about drawing reference from civil service pay? Now, for the social welfare sector, there is lump sum grant arrangement, but at least there is this linkage to the midpoint salary of civil servants in providing the lump sum grant. So the Independent Commission may not like the idea of having our staff salary linked to that of civil service pay. What about making reference to civil service pay? They should the members should appreciate that we need to retain quality staff. And why is it that our staff can't be compared with civil servants when civil service pay needs to be compared with pay in the private sector? So it's really unreasonable. So when we hire our staff, and if they are university graduates, we have to make sure that their remuneration is comparable to that of civil servants of similar qualifications, or else how can we get or hire suitable people? Now, let's do this experiment. Now, say, electrical members what office can place an advertisement to hire a university graduate, and meanwhile the government can place an advertisement to hire AOs or EOs, and you can see the huge difference in the number of applicants. You're trying to say that you need new data in order to bring the matter back to the Commission. Perhaps the Secretariat can tell us whether we do have new data. But I want to say that, in fact, concerning the salary adjustment of our staff, that will take up 8 to 9%, and then rental increases about 10%. And so we only have about 7 to 8% left. And what can we do? There is very little we can do with the 7 to 8%. Previously, we could only offer very small salary increases to our staff. On some occasions, we were not able to offer any salary increase at all. And then after offsetting, there may still be an outstanding sum, and that sum may be quite large. And so we can easily use up that 20%. So please do not think that you are very magnanimous in giving us the 20%. My view is that you are not willing to give us adequate resources to monitor the work of the administration. Perhaps we can invite an independent commission to come to have a meeting with us. We don't want to really sort of play with figures. When the administration wants to create new posts, it can do so rather easily. So I think we are being very unfairly treated. Director. Now, we've heard members' views today, and if members and the Secretariat have new data to offer, we'll definitely relay them to the Independent Commission. And as in previous years, the outcome of the review will be put to the CE in Council for endorsement, and if there is a need to increase any of the items, we definitely have to come back to FC. I can understand Mr. Lee Cheuk-Yan's point. As employers, of course, members would like to have more resources. But then, as I said in my introduction, the Independent Commission did not think that the nature of the work of a personal assistant of electrical member should be compared to the nature of the work of a civil servant. But the Independent Commission did accept that the market principle should be adopted, and when we did a calculation, we came up with a 20% because we adopted the assumptions put forward by the subcommittee, and we took into account that in some cases the salary could be up to 40,000, and in other cases 15,000, and 15,000 represented the pay of a university graduate. At the time, that was the market rate. So, in fact, the increase was to try to help electrical members retain quality staff. And so after the increase, we would like to know whether the increase has helped to reduce the staff wastage rate. And of course, we'll also need to make reference to the figures kept by the RVD. I think this director has much more to say than the previous one. So how much can we pay our staff? Now, Director, on Monday we had the PS panel meeting in this conference room, and for the civil service the wastage rate was 0.5%, and for electrical member staff 32%, 34% it should be. Yes, 34% versus 0.5%. Now, SG. They keep asking us for new data. I don't know whether you've got new data to offer. In fact, in the last term, our secretariat tried to collect information and data for us. Now, members, the membership of the Independent Commission has changed, but we haven't been given an updated membership list. Do you know the chairman, Law Ka-chun? And the other members are Mrs. Yun So-Siu-mei, Professor Chen Yuk-shu, Madam Chen Yun-sao, Mrs. Leung Ko-mei-yi, Mr. Fong Hao-chung. So this is the composition of the so-called Independent Commission, because Leung Sing is now a LegCo member, and none of them are LegCo members. Mr. Wong Teng Kwong. Thank you. I wish to follow up on one point I made in the past. If members do not seek re-election, then we need to close down our office. And according to the employment ordinance, of course there are mandatory MPF contributions, and the LegCo members' office contributes 5%, and if the office during the winding up of the office, in fact there is a sum for the winding up, and that sum can be used to pay for the difference between the 5% contributions and the severance pay. But I don't think that's really the problem. The problem it's not with a member and his office where the office doesn't seek re-election. What if in the middle of a term the employee wants to quit, and as a result we may need to pay the LSP, and that's required under the employment ordinance. As LegCo members, we need to comply with the law.
Under this circumstance, we haven't closed the office because it's still within our term. So it's impossible for us to get the sum out of the closure allowance. But we still have to make payment to the employee, and then the trustee of the MPF will reimburse the LegCo for the payment offset. And it's only then when we can give the long service payment to the outgoing member, staff member. We're talking about a huge sum, in the tunes of tens of thousands. And if someone's been helping me for 2 terms, into my 3rd term, we're talking about at least $100,000. Or you get arrested, or you will have to file for bankruptcy, or pay out of your own pocket. Well, if you have money, then you pay out of your own pocket. It's unreasonable by the looks of it. I'm not asking for an increase of the OOER. I just want a change in policy. where not the case that you can only pay long service payment when you close an office or when the legislator is leaving LegCo. If a staff member wants to leave the employment of the legislator, does it mean that it will have to wait till everyone is gone? No. Well, when its closure is accountable, so it's not the case that you have an amount of money at your disposal. But when the office is closed, then the staff members would have left already, so you can't make an accountable expense out of that. Director. Mr. Wong wrote us a letter earlier, drawing our attention to this matter, especially with a shared office. Say, for example, we share an office and we use the same assistants. One member closes its office, the other still running it, then the one who's staying will have to make advance payment. And if the staff member works for less than 2 years, then you cannot make you can't offset it with the Provident Fund or the MPF. Last time it wasn't covered. Director, but when it comes to closure of office, under which policy bureau? We're now looking into it with the Treasury. We also have to do a read across exercise. What I've proposed is perfectly legal and reasonable. I'm not asking for an increase of expenses, just a reasonable allocation. I did not ask the administration to increase expenditure. No. Well, if the policy remains unchanged, then you have to pay it out of your own pocket. No, I'll just put it on record, and then I will wait till I leave, then I will claim it. But the person has already left. We've got to make it clear on the receipt, on the record. We have to be very careful. Well, I will take our judicial review, which is quite popular these days. For long service payment, and if, in the case of someone working for you for over 5 years, then it will be paid. Mr. Wong, please let the director finish. If it's under 2 years, by law, there is no need to pay severance payment, because you are still a legislator. It's a complicated issue when it comes to sharing the same assistant and office. No, Mr. Wong said that he would make the payment and keep the record and then claim it when he leaves office. Can you give me a timetable about how long it would take you? Well, we have to go back to the Finance Committee for the closure. No, we're not talking about closure. We're talking about a staff member leaving before the office is closed. Yes. Well, because Mr. Wong would like to use the money available for a closure. No, I reminded him that is not the case. We're talking about a separate additional sum to make the payment. No, no matter when you make that payment, you have to make that payment. Mr. Wai-hing? The director has responded to the 9 proposals, and I think in short, the answer is no. The stance of the Commission is clear. But we have new members. There are new members in the Commission. Of course, there shouldn't be any legislators in its composition. Otherwise, there will be conflict of interest. But are they perfectly clear about the operation of the LegCo? I do hope the new independent commission will spend some time to understand the operation of the LegCo. Well, it's still workable, but is it the best practice? I don't think so. Let's look at a wastage. I think it's a big contrast, 34%. No, it's back then. Well, I don't think there'll be much change. Yes, I can work out each and every expenses I've made. If we are to retain our staff, we will have to give them a raise. Is it the case that with a raise, they will stay with us? Not necessarily. Because by comparison, other jobs in the market are more attractive. So I hope to just leave it to the independent commission to see if they can come up with a better proposal. 7 staff members, 2 district officers. Can we retain our staff? I ask you to look into it and ask the commission to look into it as well. And the OER level, or the OER level, well, you have to get more updated information because there are many changes within just one term. You talk about adjustments according to the mechanism and and inflation. Yes, we are aware of that. But there are other factors at play. There is a point of contention. Out of the OER, what is available for us on staff remuneration is inadequate, so we can only offer a smaller pay. And you talk about linking it with an executive officer. Perhaps we don't use the word link. Maybe take reference. We're talking about the labor market. How can we attract and retain quality staff? We do need to think about it. I don't think the administration should set down rules that one of the staff members working in the office should be a degree holder. It's impossible. You pay according to your ability and the staff member's ability. Adjustments will have to be made. The Secretariat has done a lot of studies before making the proposals. We have to take into account the retention of staff and the high wastage. We perhaps need to ask the independent commission to look into it again. Any response? No. We've heard what Mr. Ip said. As I said at the beginning, the independent commission chose to take into account they remunerate the salary level of people with in different sectors with different education qualifications. Perhaps I ask the SG to help us to keep track of the latest figures. Since October, the Democratic Party has already lost at least 6 staff members. Every month we are trying to recruit. Mr. Lee Chuk-yan, I'd like to clarify. You talk about the study on severance pay and long-service payment. Well, you talk about the under 2 years, but you will look into those over 2 years. I think. Well, Mr. Wong Ting Kong talked about a judicial review. I wish him luck. But we're not asking for the payment to be made when an office is closed. Sometimes there may be other reasons. Say, for example, the staff member is sacked. And for those working for over 2 years, that they can get severance pay. There is also a termination pay. And the difference should be paid. I don't think it's appropriate for that payment to be made only when an office is closed, because most of the time you have already paid that. That's in my case at least. I recall there is another point of contention. It seems that your impression of our district office is that there is no need for district office to employ a degree holder. That's just for the central office. But we need more staff members in a district office. Your own district office. It's called LO. There is a liaison officer in district offices. What's their salary level? Compare the salary of a liaison officer with our staff in district office. How come they have a better pay than ours? What's the difference in the nature of the work? So, what market are you comparing with that of the district office? Thank you. I will defer to Deputy Director to answer on long service payment. In relation to district office, in the report last year, a number of examples were cited. And as presumptions given to us by the subcommittee is also taken into account. Of course, there are 2 examples. One is 35,000, the other 40,000. District office, based on the assumption of the subcommittee, say for example, 2 office 2.1 staff members in each district office, 1 degree holder, the other one not necessarily. So when we're making our evaluation, we have accommodated $15,000 for the degree holders and 4 to 5 assistants at $10,000. So as far as possible, we work on the basis of the assumptions given to us by the subcommittee.
And if there was a 20% increase to the OER, and subsequently there would be adjustments in accordance with the CPIC annually, we thought that that would be adequate to help members retain quality staff. But of course, we do welcome new data and new information from members. Now you talk about retaining quality staff. Now, without any disrespect to our colleagues, I must point out that in fact we're not in position to compete for quality people with the government. In fact, we know that our resources are limited. Yes, I understand there are young people with ideals who want to serve the community. They may wish to work for us. But how many such university graduates are there, and you talk about 15,000. So are you assuming that all of each and every one of them will only work for 1 year for us and then leave? If one of them continues to work for us, and again we won't have enough resources. So is it that your assumption is that no one will work for us for more than 2 years continuously? And then concerning your district staff, the liaison officers, are they university graduates or not? And in our district office, I think it's reasonable to have an establishment of 1 EO plus 1 LO. I'm not talking about 1 AO plus 1 LO. And we said that we had 3 district officers, but you could only accept 2. So so the baseline that you've adopted is unreasonable and outrageous. So calculations based on that baseline is of course unreasonable. And you said you needed new data. Now I want to say that in fact we have a complete change in the makeup of the independent commission, and so as there are new brains in the independent commission, I think we should talk to them. We should have discussions of them, and they may conclude that the government has really acted too outrageously. So are you dreaming? Maybe I am. But I'm dreaming. I just want to say I'm daydreaming. But maybe they feel that in fact the government has acted outrageously, and in fact the old data are already enough to make the administration change its mind. And do we know the chairman Loh Ka-chun? He used to be the deputy chairman in the previous term. No, he used to be a member, and he used to be the chairman of the standing or the patron standing commission, and then he also used to be the deputy chairman of the patron service. And which profession is he in? IT. So so he is familiar with the civil service mechanisms, and I think if he uses the same brain to look at our case, then I'm sure he will support us. Now, in fact, some time ago, he received some members. It was just a meeting. He was not someone high and powerful. I think the baseline is really too low. And LO. So what is what is the figure? 20,000. No, we can't compare ourselves with secretariat staff, not to mention civil servants. But then concerning the establishment of the civil service, the ranks, the fixing of civil service pay, there's a long history to the existing mechanisms, and so the independent commission also viewed that there can't be a direct comparison between civil servants and member staff. So how are we going to move forward? Deputy Director will take the point about long service payment. I want to clarify Mr. Wong Ting Kwong's point. I believe Mr. Lee Chok Yam knows this very well. LSP is paid if what I mean is that if the staff member leaves voluntarily, he can't get LSP. But then if he has served for at least 5 years continuously, and he has been dismissed not because of his fault, then LSP needs to be paid. So what situation are you talking about, Ms. Wong? What if he resigns? My understanding is that if he resigns, then no LSP needs to be paid. But then if he And if you dismiss him, then he gets LSP. But then if he resigns, the employer doesn't need to pay LSP. So you of course you have no objection to his wanting to pay LSP, but you will not allow him to make a claim under the make a claim, right? Using public money. Now, the problem is that in my office, there is a staff member who will reach 65 years old very soon, and he may retire within this present term of mine. And I will need to pay him, because if he reaches 65 and then he retires, I need to pay. You just act in accordance with the law. Yes, of course you need to pay in accordance with the law. And I'm asking the administration whether it is willing to act in accordance with the law and reimburse me. Yes, I need to comply with the law. They also need to comply with the law. So we're talking about a staff member who will reach the age of 65 and will retire, and LSP has to be paid. And then there is another scenario. What if a staff member is incompetent and has made some mistakes, and if I dismiss him, then I need to pay him LSP. Is that right? Perhaps we can deal with the first scenario first. So he retires within my present term. What is your policy in this case? If the staff member reaches the age of 65 and you need to pay the LSP out of your own pocket, then we can bring this case back to the Independent Commission for its consideration, because this is a special case. I just want to explain to Mr. Wong Ting Kwong that normally if the employee resigns, there is no need for the employer to pay him or her LSP. Now, Mr. Lee Chuk Yan, of course, knows the labor legislation very well. But then if an employee makes a mistake and he is dismissed, then in principle, he can't get the LSP. And also, when LSP needs to be paid, there can be offsetting with MPF. But I understand Mr. Wong Ting Kwong's concern, and I will bring that back to the Standing Commission for its consideration. And what if no offsetting is done, and you will not allow members to use the money to pay the LSP? Is that right? If I understand that even in the winding up case, and offsetting is done first. And then if there isn't enough money, then the money can be taken from the reimbursement. So you have to act in accordance with the law. And so for those who are dismissed, for those who retire at the age of 65, they must not be asked to wait till the winding up of the office. Now, sometimes a staff member may not have made very serious mistakes, but then the employer simply feels that he can't get along well with that employee. But then so I want the policy to be changed. In other words, we should not be asked to wait till the winding up of the office. So I believe you admit that your policy is not in accordance with the law, because if an employee retires at the age of 65, we do not allow. Now, of course, the member can pay from the OER, but then there is no reimbursement to members for payment of LSP. Secretary General, they keep asking us for new information, new data. When will such information be available? Chairman, Now the fifth term of LegCo started operation only 7 months ago. Of course, upon members' request, we can collect information from members, what officers concerning the wastage rate. But I want to say that half of the 70 members are new members, and so many of the staff members have only been working for a few months, and so we may need to wait for a little bit longer before we can get hold of more meaningful data. As I've said just now, half of the members of this term did not take part in the discussion in the last term. So I think they can read the records of past discussions, and then they can of course provide us with the information. And does it mean that we won't be able to give the administration new data in the near future? Of course, upon members' request, we can collect data from members' ward officers. But then perhaps we can wait till October 2013, after members have assumed office for 1 year, and then we can collect information about the wastage rate of member staff. Would that be appropriate? As for you to decide, Chairman. Of course, the director may want us to collect data 2 years later. Not now. I want to say that for new members, of course, I don't know how much pay they offered to their staff, but I believe the staff won't leave just after a few months. So I think when you collect data, you should make a distinction between existing members and new members. And I think there is a need for the Secretariat to collect data on the pay offered offered by new members to their staff. I believe their pay is on the low side, and even if there is a 20%, I believe their pay is still on the low side when compared with civil service pay. And then concerning existing members, perhaps you can try to know more about the wastage rate of their staff. But then I think before we have the so-called new data, we can invite the Standing Commission to come. They've never come here despite our invitation. Perhaps we can go and meet them. Is that the case? I think the Standing Commission would welcome a meeting with members. Yes, I think a meeting should be arranged, and if possible, it should be an open meeting. And I think we should put forward to them again our request. And we've got the survey, and over 16 members have said that they support the suggestions we made in the last term. So I think we should meet the new independent commission. And then if the independent commission members want more data from us, we can give them the information and explanations to them directly. Now we're going to have our recess in August, so can we invite the Standing Commission to come, say, in July? And then we'll know what our proposals we should put forward in October. Can this be done, Director?
We'll try to make arrangements, but I believe that if we adopt a previous practice. I believe last time was not an open meeting. If it's not an open meeting, it'll be better for exchange. Maybe you just reflect our view that we would like it to be an open meeting. We need at least one meeting. There are lots of new faces, is that right? Mainly Mrs. Margaret Leung and Mr. Andrew Fong. I remember Zhao Chongguang to be on the list. He left? Well, because he became an EXCO member. There is conflict because this commission looks into remuneration for EXCO members as well. Perhaps you give us a table, the number of staff, assistants, and their salary level, together with the education qualification. Accountant, do you think that is feasible? Yes. Yes, then. So if you think there is some useful new information, then you just put them all together for their reference. They keep asking for new information, and I don't know. They're always asking for something new. I don't think it makes it very difficult to go forward. You intend to ask the Commission to look into it? Yes. And we'll meet with them. You give us a paper, it's our duty to pass it on to the independent commission because it's not the decision of the administration wing. We'll give this survey and your paper to the independent commission. But if you'd like to draw their attention to the fact that an increase of 20% cannot achieve the original purpose, then you can give us the information. It will help them. I think it would be better if you set out the remuneration of staff members. Put in their qualification and experience as well, so they will better understand how the money is used. And if need be, put in the rental of offices as well. Let's take it from here. I hope you reflect Mr. Zhang's view to the administration. Thank you. Thank you.
係啊，你俾啦，你俾啦。